Lara here, and today I am sharing a layout that I really enjoyed putting together. The different pieces that I've got here, I've got the Modern Christmas DSP, I've got the branching out bundle. That gorgeous paper there is called the Silent Snowfall Specialty DSP. I've got some white fluffy trim, some frosted iridescent dots. I'm going to pull in the mini alphabet, some white embossing powder. I am now playing with my favourite part, which is going to be some mixed media using the Timid Tiger and Strawberry Slush ink refills. So what I'm just doing here is dotting them onto this handy little mat, and I'm going to add some water, and I'm just going to use quite a broad paintbrush for this. And so I'm just adding a little bit of water to where I added those ink dots, and you're just going to see how gorgeously this colour comes out onto this sort of Silent Snowfall Specialty DSP. So as I'm spritzing that there, you can see those little patterns pop out. It kind of reminds me of little pinafores or aprons that Mum used to make when she would sew us dresses when we were little kids, and she would make these aprons that would go over top to kind of protect the dress from getting dirty or whatever. So just that little embroidery kind of texture tucked in there is quite a nice pattern that you see sort of popping up from in behind these inks. So I'm using the heat tool just sort of to spread around the strawberry slush ink, and I have dried a bit more off camera and am now sort of on the back. Now I have discovered that by drying the back as well as the front, the paper is a little bit less wrinkly when I'm adding sort of this water and mixed media to it. So now I'm going to play with the Timid Tiger and add some extra water onto that and just sort of dot that onto the page, and then use the spritzer again to add more water and then to spread it around. So it's just rough, it's just playing. At this point, I had no idea if I'd just wasted this piece of paper or if I was going to be able to use it or have to do something else, but I just really love how this all came out and how it came together. So just adding that extra water there just spreads it around the page, and it kind of merges them together almost as if they're marbling. And when it is all dried, you can sort of see that come about. So drying it, blowing it, I'm kind of positioning the heat tool to make sure I wasn't pushing the colours together too much, if that makes any sense. This heat tool's got a little bit of air pressure with it, so when it is pushing onto that water, it sort of can move it around a little bit. So we sort of have our background created now. The dies here from the branching out are some gorgeous frames, and I'm going to layer them up to create kind of a border or an outline. And you'll see here that I am just trying to find the right size of these to fit the photographs. So playing around with them, that one looks about right on the inside, so I then need to get the bigger one to be so that I can create a frame that's going to sit on top of the photos. It kind of, I did contemplate the possibility of using these dies as the on the photo to cut it out, but I decided just to stick with the photo where it is. It's been quite a while since I sort of cropped my photos into interesting shapes, which was something that I did right back when I first started scrapbooking. So I'm not going to go back to that today. So I've gone ahead and cut out a few borders, and you'll see these inside pieces there, and I am going to use some of them a little bit later on. So this, the layout that I am putting together, I did sort of sketch up some ideas in Canva beforehand of how this might come about, and I am just sort of slowly playing around with some of those ideas, and I do sort of stick to that idea that I came up with, but I do add in a second photo that I hadn't intended to on the sketch. So a few different things. So these gorgeous photos are of my friend Kate, and she got married recently and agreed to let me use these photos for my artisan design team requirements, and she signed the agreement to say that it was okay to use her photos and her image, and I was really happy with that because they just added that nice pop to what this page is sort of coming together as. So got those sort of frames, got that photo, now sort of playing around with how some of these other dies could look with it. And I felt that they could have added, just with these sort of, are they berry branches? I'm not sure what I should call them, but that they would add sort of a nice texture. So the dress that she's wearing is very much that princess kind of chill, flowing gorgeousness. And I do end up calling this layout Princess, and that was in response to a text from my daughters. I sent them a photo of Kate all dressed up. I was at her place earlier that day, not very early, helping her get ready, and part of that was putting together the bouquet and sort of bits and pieces, and I took my big camera and took some photos so that she had a few of that preparation time getting ready. So I play around here with the stamps, and I wasn't quite sure how this was all going to work. I sort of had stamped it, but it didn't show up very well. So what I decided to do was to pull out the Versamark, to just very bravely stamp with the Versamark using these sort of flowers. I think they're part of the pine needles. However, they do have a few other uses which I'm playing with at the moment. Outside of this design team project, they remind me of the New Zealand rata flower that I sort of plan to play around with some Christmassy summery ideas, which is our Christmas over on this side of the world. So I have used the dots and these little flowers, and am just putting them in some places that I know will peek out from behind where the photos and the frames will sit. So Versamark, the white embossing powder, take it off into my embossing tray, and then I'm going to pull out the heat gun and just see that magic appear. I love seeing that white just sort of pop up from the paper when you use white. It's just always quite a magical seeing it. I call it turning. It was something that when we used to make ginger ice as kids, there was sort of a point when you were stirring to make the fudge, and it would sort of stop being shiny and it would just start being this nice matte finish, and yeah, it would just, you'd know it was ready to pour into the trays, ready to chill for eating later. Anyway, I digress. It just has that nice sort of change when you are using the heat tool with the white embossing powder in it. Yeah, just really adds a pop. So you just see how they sort of add that wee subtle detail in the background, those little dots and the flowers. And now it's sort of time to bring in some of these other little embellishments and things as well. And I was just checking out the stamps, trying to work out if there's any other ones that could work with what I'm creating here. Just looking at my desk at this point, I'm like, man, it's never this tidy when I'm just creating in general. It has to be if I'm doing a video recording that it seems to have desk space left. I am, as I'm sort of doing this voice recording, I'm away from home. I'm at a weekend crop, and my desk back in the craft room is sort of down to maybe a 20 centimetre by 20 centimetre space to work on. I'm going to have to tidy it up in the morning before I make anything. But yeah, it's nice and tidy for this one anyway. So I have backed the photo in some white willow cardstock, and now I'm pulling out some of the gorgeous modern Christmas DSPs. Now, this collection is one that I think I might need to get another couple of. I love white paper with black spots on it. There's also a black paper with sort of some white dashes. There's a gorgeous gold that you can see here, and I'm not going to do it so that it doesn't show those Christmas baubles. It has some squiggles, and it has sort of kind of a black and white plaid, as well as these gold kind of inflections on some of them, some stripes, different pieces. It's really gorgeous. So loving that collection. And I just love that little pop of gold that's coming out and behind that photo as well. So now sort of playing around with where these dies might work, I've decided to pull out the two-toned Timid Tiger and Strawberry Slush. And so that way when I've cut them, I've sort of, you can see them to the left there now, I can use either side, and they've got that light or that dark, which is kind of cool. So here we have another photo that I had trimmed down that I'm trying to work out what to do with, and I decide that it will fit into that little frame, so it's more of a profile picture that's in that sort of vertical format rather than horizontal as well. So I'm going to have to mat that one on some of that white willow cardstock and zip around it just with the snips there, and again matting it with similar papers. So I do mat them slightly differently, so I don't think I bring out the gold behind this one. So I've sort of got it as a subordinate or a supporting photo of that main one when Kate's come out with her dress on and she's just sort of saying, ta-da, hey, look at me. And it was quite a gorgeous moment there was a group of us there, all part of that morning as she got ready. So I am doing my standard wrinkle up the paper mat pages, adding a bit more of that sort of fluffy texture that was in the tulle of her skirt. And there's our frame pieces from the branching out dies, and I'm just going to use a little bit of the green Tombow, if I can get it working, around the edges of that, and just sort of sticking that on top. Just adds that sort of nice, another little detail or element around that photograph. And there we have it, and going to do similar with the smaller photo, and I'm going to sort of pre-wrinkle this one up around the edges before I stick it down. And tucking it in behind there, just that happy facial expression as she's ready to go. So after this, they took a helicopter ride up and had their ceremony up overlooking the town where we live on a mountainside before we all met them again in town afterwards. So the ceremony was quite small, it was just a very family intimate one, and then we met them all back in town not long after for the sort of celebrations afterwards. So I am going to tuck these sort of I'm going to call them berry branches in a few different places around the layout. I also cut them out from some of that gold bauble DSP, so you can see sort of some gold bits sort of popping out like on that one there as well. So just sticking with that sort of gold, Timid Tiger, strawberry slush and white seem to be sort of the key colours popping out here, with a touch of black in some places. So this process takes a wee while, sort of popping these embellishments in. There's a taller set and a shorter set, and just sort of placing them around the page. So yeah, just popping them down, seeing where they look right, working out sort of where the extra detail needs to be. So these are quite a fine die, and I do have to use the glue there to hold them down at different points in time. However, it probably would have been a better idea if I had put them on the adhesive sheets first before putting them through the die cut machine, and then they'd be self-adhesive. So I need to do that a little bit more and think ahead with that. Now I'm using the gorgeous white fluffy trim, and this trim just sort of seemed perfect with that tulle on the wedding dress as well, and I decided to use it as sort of a ledge that the layout sort of looks like it's sitting on. So I've cut enough there to go around or to go across sort of part of it, a bit peeking out from behind here and tucking in behind the page. And I've just sort of put some tape on the back of them, on the back of it, so it just sort of sits in here and in behind. So just getting the other end ready so that the ledge looks like it goes in behind the photos and pops out the other side. So going to tuck this down under that right hand photo as well. Now you'll see that I've sort of got a blank frame up there to the left of the photographs. Now I initially thought that this is where I would put my journaling. I do change that thinking, but it doesn't at this point in time look like it has any real purpose. Anyway, I'm now going to play with one of the tags that I popped out from inside those frames that I created when I sort of used the two of the branching out borders around there, and I have got my title and I'm going to call it Hello. So just see how this all comes together. So I thought, okay, let's pop the title up there. However, I wasn't going to be able to get it to stand out very well. I was a bit wary of using the embossing powder at this stage of the layout creation. So I'm going to play around with this tag, and I know that that will fit on there at the top, but I don't feel it right with it being just the white tag. So I'm going to bring in some of those gorgeous Timid Tiger and Strawberry Slush colours that I had at the start that I put onto that really nice Silent Snowfall specialty DSP in the background. So I'm being quite heavy-handed with the inks here. I want that nice bold colour that's on that background. So first up, I'm sort of blending the two colours, mixing them together, creating a little bit of an outline with them, and just sort of thickening that up as I go in and add a little bit more. So happy with sort of how that colour looks, but now I'm going to play around with this sort of mixed media a little bit more, and again bringing in that water spritzer. It just pulls out some of the colour, it changes it around, it adds a nice sort of visible texture in behind. So just using the heat tool to dry that off before I do the next sort of stage with that. And I am going to heat emboss it as well. So I'm bringing in that white. You'll see that I use the anti-static pad first just to make sure that I can get a nice crisp image. So I am then just tapping off the excess powder, and I'm going to add a little bit more because it didn't seem to be all over where that title is. So just tap that off to make sure there's no bits where I don't want them, and getting ready to use that heat tool. So again, watching the title come out when the heat goes onto that white embossing powder is just quite magical, really. So you can see how bold that is against that nice white background. And I'm just going to add my journaling down here, just about Kate being like a princess. And I think I started telling the story about how I'd sent the text to my daughters on the day of the wedding, and they replied back, "Oh, she looks like a princess." So that's how the title came to be, or that I haven't showed you yet, but the sort of hello with that journaling in there. And again, just cleaning off this mats. I love using this stamp chamois because I can use it both to clean stamps and my surface. So there's that journaling just sort of sitting there at the moment, and I am going to cut the bottom piece off and stick it down, as well as adding a few more of those sort of branches and pieces so it connects it to the rest of the layout. So I'm going to cut some of these a little bit shorter, just they are quite long, but they do work quite well cut down as well. I've used that sort of technique in a few different projects since creating this layout. So there we sort of have what that journaling cluster will look like. And I'm going to just trim off that part that I don't need and get ready to stick this down. So I'm going to just use the dimensionals here because I want those little pieces to be able to tuck in behind and sort of look like they're layered behind it. Once it's in the page protector, you don't really see this bit, but you do notice it when it's just sort of sitting out. So adding some more dots to tuck in those little pieces around the journaling tab. I've gone ahead and added some of those other little shapes on the background, and now I'm just popping on these frosted iridescent dots just to add a little bit more interest. Hey, I hope that you have enjoyed seeing this page come together, and if you've got any questions, please let me know, and thanks so much for watching.